Hi there, quilty friends. I'm Emma Jane Powell, and I'm excited to show you some more of my Halloween quilty things that I am making and have made and have around my house at Halloween. I want to show you this one. This one is so much fun. This is a pattern I have on my website. It's called Snowballs, and I call this one Haunted Snowballs because it is obviously jack-o'-lanterns, spooky little jack-o'-lanterns. It's a batik that I found at Carey Quilting Company last year. I'm not sure if they still have some, but I had a lot of fun. As you can see, I like orange. My dining room is orange. So I have fun with orange. It's not my favorite color, but it works for Halloween especially. And so this one is really simple. You just put the different snowball things, like here's the block, right? And then I finish it off by doing big stitch quilting with the pearl cotton thread and just had fun with it. It's just a small piece. It didn't take long to quilt at all. We're right here at Halloween, so you probably, unless you work really fast and have nothing to do between now and Halloween, you wouldn't have time to make it by this year. But you could make it with, imagine like snowmen, something Christmassy or July 4th-y, right? So this one was a lot of fun. And I had this backing fabric that's all spooky and orange as well. So, and I don't put sleeves on a lot of my quilts. I just use straight pins and stick them into the wall. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I don't really see much of it doesn't really damage the wall that much to me. So the other thing I did was this right here, this Halloween cats piece that I cross stitched a couple of years ago. I love the colors. I love the styles, kind of like Art Deco looking to me. And then I created the border in electric quilt and made it, and I just pin it to the wall at Valentine's Day. And I pin it to the wall at Halloween in my dining room, and I absolutely love this piece. So framing is expensive, is it not? So finding a way to quilt around something and making a wall hanging, to me, is a great inexpensive way to finish off your pieces, your cross stitch pieces. Now, let's say you don't have time to make something to decorate for Halloween. I got this cool orange quilt at the Virginia Quilt Museum in their gift shop. They had some vintage quilts there. And I just have this one on a bench here in my dining room. And it just goes nicely with the orangeness of my dining room, but also helps out with Halloween and fall decor, does it not? So I finished quilting this Lone Star quilt that my mom made with Tim Holtz fabrics. She gave it to me. I mentioned in my last video, she was frustrated because when she made the Lone Star, it was kind of wavy and she just didn't know what to do with it. So she gave it to me and I said, let me quilt it and we'll see what happens. So I did really tight, like straight line match stick quilting, if you will, on this. I had a lot of fun with it. I used my sit down Juki long arm to do it, and I quilted it in just a few hours, and it has been so much fun. Look at it. And so one way that I deal with waviness in a quilt is I quilt it into submission. So I will quilt the heck out of it. So that's why I did really tight quilting in this one. But I used black thread, kind of like a smoky gray, actually, like a dark charcoal thread. And so that ended up looking really great. And then I iron it. So when I finish quilting, I will iron it, and that really helps it to lie flat. So that's something, if you don't already do that, to iron your quilts after you quilt them, and that can help them just like really smooth out. So I finished quilting my coffin quilt, and I don't love the quilting, but I was in a hurry to finish it, and so I just did straight line quilting all the way down. And I'm going to do this again with like dog and cat fabrics, and I'll do something a little more appealing with the actual quilting, but for this, I just needed to be done with it. So I do love the pattern. The improv flying geese were so much fun to make. And then the kind of crumb quilting or improv piecing with gypsy tape is what I did with the leftover scraps for the borders. And I really love that. So it's like a large throw size. And I will have a pattern up soon as I have time to sit down and write it, so that you can make something like this for the future with Christmas fabrics or florals, or something like a novelty fabric would be so fun. You could really do anything with this. And it uses the picture window tools Dresden plate templates to make these. So that's how I got like that coffin look. Just so cute. It has like these accessory pack where it has that hexagon shape or whatever that is. Is that a hexagon? Yeah. So, so fun. This is kind of a play on the Dresden plate quilt with just one plate in each rectangle. So those were so much fun. This past week was the state fair here in North Carolina, and I love the state fair. A lot of people don't like to go because of the crowds, but every year I go on a weekday, first thing in the morning. And by the time I'm ready to leave, around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, that is when the crowds start arriving. And I'm telling you, it is the best way to do the state fair. And I took my 4-year-old and my sister came with us, and we had a great time. Turns out my 4-year-old is a thrill rider, and he loves riding the fast rides, the little roller coasters and the slides and anything that goes fast. So he's right up there with his sisters and his dad. He's going to love riding roller coasters with them one day. I don't. I can handle the kiddie ones, but I don't want to do some scary roller coaster that has a whatever foot drop. Not for me. But we have the craft area in our state fair is called the Village of Yesteryear. And they have all the crafters, mostly from North Carolina. Some of them are from wherever, Florida, other places. And I bought these, this one booth, she makes her own like spun yarns and things, but she also makes these little, she calls them voodoo dolls. They're so cute. And so I had bought this one a couple of years ago. What a great way to use up just tiny little fabrics and old buttons, you know. These she calls bears. So I get one from her every year. This year I bought this one. And aren't they cute? And every year I think I can make some of those, but then I never do because I don't have time. They get a new friend every year. Now they have their triplets. The other thing that I'm currently working on, I was really hoping I would finish it by Halloween, and I might be finished with it by Halloween, but I likely will not have it framed or whatever I'm going to do with it. It's going to say spooky, and it's going to have like spider webs and things on it. I have the pattern down in the notes below. I got it off Etsy. Just something small and simple. I'm doing this on 35 count linen, which I am loving, and almost done with that. And one last thing I want to show you is my mom made this cross stitch piece for me. You can find this pattern on Etsy as well. I can't remember what it's like, a steampunk. And there's also like, this is the female one and there's a male one that goes with it, but she did the female one for me. And then over the weekend, I put it into an improv wall hanging. So I just did this really improv style, and I had a lot of fun with it, just using up old scraps and fabrics that would go well with what I thought went well with it. I really love this one. I think this is a Tim Holtz one. It's got like I liked how it pulled out the black for the typewriter keys. But anyway, so I really like how that turned out, and I managed to finish it before Halloween. So that was exciting. But let me show you some of the quilts that were in the competition this year at the state fair here in North Carolina. It was really fun to go over there. Like I said, I went at a really slow time, and my sister took my son for a little while, and I went to go look at the quilts and by myself, and I was the only one at the quilts just at that time. Some other people kind of came and went, but the lady there went through and showed me every single quilt in the competition, so that was really nice. And these were some of the ones that I enjoyed looking at and took pictures of. Every year I tell myself I'm going to enter a quilt into the state fair. And every year I cannot get my shit together in time to turn it in by the deadline. So maybe next year. I just think it would be fun to have it in there. I don't care if I win. I can just say, I had a quilt in the state fair. So have any of you ever had a quilt in the state fair? I would love to hear about it down in the comments. Okay, so that's it for today. I just wanted to pop in and say hi and show you some of my Halloween crafts. I hope you enjoyed the gallery show, and I'll be in touch next time. I would be remiss if I did not mention that I have a 4-year-old who has an opinion about what he wants to be for Halloween. It was really fun when he was like a baby and I could decide what he was going to be for Halloween. Oh, and I have some pictures of that. So cute. I went to a thrift store and I found this little pumpkin costume. And so that's what he was. His first Halloween, he was um a little pumpkin. He was 10 months old. He was born in January. And that was super cute. And then the next Halloween, I was neglectful. And the only costume they had left at Target was an avocado, which ended up being so cute. So he was an avocado. I got myself a Cruella wig, and that ended up being really cute too. So this year, I said to Jeffrey, what do you want to be for Halloween? And he doesn't skip a beat and says, Marshall the Pumpkin. And I'm like, who is Marshall? And Marshall the Pumpkin. Okay, what is this? So it turns out he loves Paw Patrol. And he has this little Halloween book, and you see Marshall is the pumpkin. So I'm like, okay, great. That means essentially 2 costumes. So I started hitting the thrift store circuit in September. And every week I would go to 2 or 3 different thrift stores, and I was like, to be sure, I will at least find a pumpkin costume. And if I'm lucky, I will also find a Marshall costume. And don't you know it, I did. I eventually found both in the same thrift store. I was so excited. So I have his little Marshall costume, which I thought I was going to have to buy like white sweatpants and make this myself. And while I love cross stitching and quilting, I don't do clothes at all. So, so I found the Marshall costume and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then I looked the other direction and I found a pumpkin hat. Same place, I also got this little headband. It was like a Minnie Mouse headband with cow ears hanging down. And I don't know what kind of costume that was for, but I thought I can trim the cow ears and put them on this. And then he will have his complete Marshall the Pumpkin costume, partially made by Mom. So here is Marshall the Pumpkin, but when he is on duty, he actually wears his actual work clothes. So that's how this is going to work, and I don't need a pumpkin body part costume. But you see how his ears are hanging down off of that. So I'm excited. Last year, I was not excited about what he wanted to be. He wanted to be a fire truck, not a fireman, a fire truck, which I did not know being a vehicle is apparently a thing, because when I went to the Halloween store, they had a police car costume, an ambulance costume, and the fire truck costume. So I was like, okay. But it ended up being a bad idea because it was this boxy thing that he hung over him, and he fell up and down steps while we were trick-or-treating. And so I told him he couldn't have that kind of costume again because it was hazardous. So I'm really excited about what he shows this year. It's very him. He loves Paw Patrol. And Howl for Halloween is the book, but it's also in like their Halloween episodes. This is the costume he wears too. So cute book. I'm reading it every single night from now until Halloween for bedtime, along with the other 15 thrift store children's Halloween books that I have gotten for him, because I just love Halloween and I love reading books to my child. So